Summer vacation had finally arrived. As planned, Chio and Luna took Yonosuke to the beach for a day of fun. However, Yonosuke showed no interest whatsoever in the outing. Instead, he wore a sullen expression and kept his distance. Chio and Luna naturally refused to let him withdraw so easily. They continued to pester him, insisting that he join them in their games. Having learned it from past experiences where his imagination had repeatedly led him into embarrassing situations, Yonosuke had resolved firmly this time, no matter what happened, he would not allow himself to indulge in any improper thought. Observing how proactively Chio and Luna were pursuing Yonosuke, Akari suddenly realized with alarm that she herself had been passively waiting for opportunities to come to her. This realization filled her with unease, and she decided then and there to set aside her pride and invite Yonosuke to play with her. Unfortunately, he approached him just as he had reinforced his resolve to remain emotionally detached and was met with his cold, unresponsive demeanor. Frustrated and hurt, Akari lost control for a moment and accidentally shoved Yonosuke into the sea. After pulling him out of the water, the three girls found themselves face to face with Yonosuke at close range, all of them still wet from the ocean. Overwhelmed by the sight before him, Yonosuke could not suppress his reaction. He began to bleed from the nose. This confirmed to Chio and Luna what they had suspected all along. His earlier aloofness had not been indifference, but intense shyness. Amused and affectionate, they teased him relentlessly for the rest of the day. The group played until evening before preparing to head home. However, during an argument between Yonosuke and Akari, the two missed the last bus back to town. With no cell phone signal and no other transportation available, they had no choice but to walk along the roadside in hopes of finding help. As night fell, the darkness deepened, and Akari, who had always been timid, grew increasingly anxious. She wanted to reach for Yonosuke's hand, just as she used to do when they were children, but she could not bring herself to do it. Instead, she was startled by a sudden sound from Yonosuke and stumbled backward, falling onto the ground. Although Akari insisted repeatedly that she was fine, Yonosuke said nothing and simply turned around, knelt down, and lifted her onto his back without hesitation. As he carried her forward, he remarked quietly that she used to be much more straightforward when they were kids. Akari retorted immediately that he was the one who had changed, accusing him of acting cold and intimidating all the time. To her surprise, Yonosuke explained that he had only done so because he wanted to protect her. Their conversation continued as they walked, and soon they reached the outskirts of the city, where their phones regained signal. At that moment, Yonosuke received a call from his mother, who informed him that she had arranged accommodations for him and Akari for the night, as it was too late to return home. When they arrived at the inn, however, they discovered that Yonosuke's mother had reserved only one room for the two of them. Yonosuke immediately suggested asking the front desk for a second room, but Akari unexpectedly responded that she did not mind sharing a room with him. This sudden shift in Akari's attitude left Yonosuke bewildered. He worried that her kindness might be a prelude to some harsh confrontation, and in his eagerness to appease her, he became overly cautious. His nervousness only made things worse. While trying to pour hot water, he knocked over the kettle, spilling it onto Akari's backpack. Yet Akari's first reaction was not anger or complaints. He immediately asked whether his hands were burned. Her genuine concern caused Yonosuke's heart to race, and once again, his thoughts began to spiral uncontrollably. When it was time to sleep, Yonosuke deliberately placed his futon at a noticeable distance from Akari's, hoping to avoid any further complications. But to his astonishment, Akari quietly crawled into his bedding and nestled close to him. She looked up at him and softly asked him to hold her the way he used to when they were children. Yonosuke hesitated for a moment before gently wrapping his arms around her. Feeling his warmth, Akari whispered that she liked him and soon drifted off to sleep. Yonosuke, however, remained wide awake for the entire night. After years of longing, he believed the romantic moment he had always dreamed of was finally unfolding. Yet the next morning, Akari reverted completely to her usual cold and distant self, as though nothing had transpired between them. This abrupt change left Yonosuke utterly confused and disheartened. Determined to understand what had happened, Yonosuke sought advice from Luna. He fabricated a story, claiming that a friend of his had spent the night with a girl who confessed her feelings, but the next day, she acted as if nothing had occurred. He asked Luna what such behavior might mean. At first, Luna concluded that the situation sounded hopeless. However, when Yonosuke added that the girl only behaved coldly toward his friend and was perfectly normal with everyone else, Luna revised her assessment. She explained that this was a classic case of TS under E behavior. The girl was likely hiding her true feelings behind a facade of indifference out of shyness. If his friend were to confess sincerely, she told him, he would almost certainly succeed. Unbeknownst to them, Akari had been standing outside the window, having come to confide Yonosuke about his indiscretion. Upon hearing her innermost feelings laid bare so plainly, she panicked, stepped backward in shock, and nearly fell from the second-floor balcony. Yonosuke reacted instantly, lunging forward to grab her wrist and pull her to safety. After the incident, Akari fled in embarrassment. Watching her go, Luna suddenly realized the truth. Yonosuke's so-called friend was none other than himself. A few days later, the town's annual fireworks festival was scheduled to take place. According to local legend, if two people shared a kiss at the exact moment the first firework bloomed in the sky, they would remain together forever. Luna had hoped to invite Yonosuke to watch the fireworks with her, but she would be away visiting her family during the festival and thus unable to attend. In truth, both Shio and Akari harbored the same desire to spend the fireworks night alone with Yonosuke. Yet each was acutely aware that the other shared these feelings, and neither knew how to approach the subject without causing pain. Eventually, Shio broke the silence. She approached Akari and expressed her intention to ask Yonosuke to watch the fireworks with her alone, adding that she needed to know how Akari truly felt. Upon hearing Akari's honest confession, Shio extended her hand, and the two girls shook on it not as enemies, but as equals agreeing to a fair and honorable contest for Yonosuke's heart. On the night of the festival, both Shio and Akari sent Yonosuke separate messages, each stating that she would be waiting for him at a different location and asking him to choose whom he wished to accompany. Torn and distressed by the impossible decision before him, Yonosuke wandered aimlessly through the festival grounds. By chance, he came upon Akari in a quiet corner, practicing kissing by pressing her lips against the back of her own hand. Startled to be discovered, Akari let out a small cry and immediately ran away. Yonosuke instinctively chased after her, but bystanders misinterpreted his actions as harassment. A crowd quickly gathered, accusing him of being a pervert. Fortunately, Akari returned just in time to explain the misunderstanding, preventing Yonosuke from being reported to the authorities. At that very moment, Shio called Yonosuke. She told him that she would not be able to attend the fireworks display and suggested that he and Akari enjoy the remainder of the festival together. What Yonosuke and Akari did not know is that Shio had been helping many people before the fireworks began, and had even taken a pregnant woman to the hospital. By the time she realized it, it was already too late to return to the venue before the fireworks performance started. Though heartbroken at the thought of missing the moment she had longed for, Shio refused to give up entirely. She began running toward the festival grounds, hoping against hope to arrive before the final burst. But she did not make it in time. Alone and dejected, she sat on a bench in the quiet aftermath of the celebration. Just then, she heard a familiar voice behind her. It was Yonosuke. He and Akari had grown worried when Shio failed to appear, and thanks to the kind stranger Shio had helped earlier, who recognized Akari's hair accessory as identical to Shio's, they were able to locate her. Although they had missed the official fireworks, Yonosuke revealed one final surprise. He had arranged for a private fireworks display, with just for her. Relieved and exhausted, Yonosuke leaned back against the bench and soon fell asleep. Unseen by him, Shio and Akari exchanged a quiet glance. Then, moving silently, each of them leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to one of his cheeks. Will Yonosuke ever understand the hearts of the girls around him? And which path will fate ultimately choose for them? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow every twist in this unforgettable romantic comedy.